Today I'm going to tell you how I got a free comp table at one of the biggest nightclubs in the world, Omnia Las Vegas, to watch a DJ perform, and I was there with several hot girls. So this is really more so a story about tenacity and a bucket list dream, which is to have a table at some point in my life without having to pay for it, because who wants to spend $10,000 on the table, and then to do that with girls, because usually if you've ever been to Las Vegas, a lot of men expect that the girls would just show up at a table, but unless you buy the most expensive tables, they're not going to bring girls to a table. So it's just going to be a bunch of dudes at a table that you all chipped in and paid for. So this actually was successfully pulled off last night. So I'm recording this literally like 24 hours after it happened. And boy, was it a story of tenacity, persistence, and making it work when all else failed. So first and foremost, I do have to give some credit where it's due. I'm part of a program called Men of Action, which is headed by Michael Sartain. And Michael is like the king of Las Vegas. He's able to, from scratch, he came to Las Vegas with nothing, and he was able to slowly over the years build up the social circle where he can now bring 10, 20, 30 girls out to an event, some of the hottest girls. And he was able to do this through social circle and understanding the ins and outs of Las Vegas. And, almost now he's become a little bit of a local celebrity here. So I got a lot of tips from not just him, but all the members of this big community in this program that I invested in. But then there's some things that, I had to kind of figure out myself as well. And I do have to give it a disclaimer that I am pretty new to this program. So, I know some friends are sometimes skeptical about this, and they'll say like, oh, you just let the program do it and you barely pulled it off. Well, dude, I'm brand new to the program, so don't trash the program just because I'm a beginner and this is my first time doing it and I didn't follow all the steps and I don't have all the experience and skills yet. So that being said, let me tell you this amazing story about how I was able to pull it off. Now, some of these secrets are from the program. They're not well known, although by the time you hear this, they may have leaked and they became well known, but I do want to give credit where it's due. And there's obviously a bunch of other stuff that's still going to be locked behind the program. But anyhow, how it happened was I was able to, first build a amazing Instagram by investing months of times, in photography skills and, going to these high status locations and all sorts of other nuances I won't get into, to basically build a respectable Instagram. And then through that, I was trying to invite out all these girls that I DM'd on Instagram. The plan was to send over 2,000 invites from a list I compiled. But turns out you don't need to send that many, I was told by one of my coaches. Plus, I only had a limited amount of time, about 3 weeks before the event, and Instagram has a DM limiting function where you will be blocked if you send over like 50 messages a day. So I had this event set out. I developed a relationship with a VIP host who goes through a few clubs, but one of them was Omnia. And I was able to start to develop this relationship. And he said basically I could get a free comp table, which comes with like a comp bottle and drinks and all this stuff, if I could bring out several girls on an industry night. And most of this group had to be girls. Some could be guys, but most had to be girls, preferably local to the industry. So I'm not gonna go through all the nuances and stuff that you need to do properly, but I said, bet, let's do this. And my dream commenced. So one thing that was great as part of this community was this ability to essentially work with the community members. So another Men of Action member who had previously had success, he's just naturally charismatic and or at least better than I. So without even really having to send invites cold to girls, he was already able to build a social network with having moved to Vegas also very recently. And he had already had a couple comp table events. So he said, dude, if you could bring like 3 girls, I could bring 4 for sure. And yeah, it will make it easy. So great. I didn't have to do this all alone. I just needed to bring 3 girls. He'd bring the other 4. And I was off to the races. I was DMing like crazy. I was sending invites 3 weeks and a half in advance. But then I hit my first roadblock, which is I sent a little too much and I got blocked from sending messages for an entire week on Instagram. So I was really discouraged about that, and I figured, just based off the amount of responses, which you're expected to get a very low response rate to begin with. It's a lot of work, but what else in life isn't a lot of work? And long story short, it was looking very discouraging up until like a few days before the event. I got like several maybes, but I assumed those to be no-shows. And then, leading a couple days up to the event, I got one girl who said she was going to bring 2 other girls, and they all look very attractive. And I felt like, yes, this may come together. There's a few maybes. I reached out before the event and the day of, just to confirm, and it looked like it was going to be a no-show situation. I was starting to get very discouraged and in despair, but my friend was still going to bring 4 girls, and he was going to bring 1 male friend, and then it was just me. We would have 6, with most being girls, so it could still work. So I was still trying to DM these girls, trying to get them to show the day of, and it still could have still come together. But leading up towards the start of that night, it was still looking pretty iffy. And then as we started to get closer, my friend said his girls may not show. They just wanted to, stay in, do some other stuff, and essentially not show. And it was just not looking good at all. I was not feeling it, and it was just a lot of. I was feeling despair, franticness, feeling upset, and then I was able to talk to a couple other members of this program in person that day, because we were there for another event. I was there for a podcast thing, and essentially they gave me some encouragement. They said, dude, it's your first table. It happens. Sometimes it doesn't work out. I mean, obviously you want to impress your host, so it's not ideal. You want to build that relationship, but dude, it happens to all of us. Like, it's your first attempt. Don't worry about it. The host may still be able to get you into the table line, but it's, don't beat yourself up like you are doing. So I got some encouragement, but like going into the night, I was thinking maybe I should just apologize to the host for the failure. But yeah, it was a lot of iffiness. Like, even from my buddy, it was a maybe all the way up until that, like, right before the club opened. So in this span of time, I decided to kind of go out and essentially do what a promoter does, and go up to girls who aren't going to the club yet, aren't like on someone's guest list yet, because I heard that if you take someone who's already in a guest list line or already on a guest list, that can be very bad. It could even potentially get you banned for a year from a club. So I tried to go to girls that I knew weren't going there yet, and the long and short of it is I made lemonade out of lemons. I took something that most people would have just given up with already, and I problem solved until I got something, because I wanted to build a good relationship with the host as well, which will lead to him believing that I could actually deliver on this, which will lead to further comp tables in the future if I ever want to do that again. If I show with no girls, he's going to be disappointed, and his interest in me is going to wane a lot. So, I just, try to figure it out. And, sometimes, obviously, you're going to get people who say they're not interested. And some girls said that. I just wanted to pull this together. And thankfully, you could thank God, you can thank the world. I don't know who to thank, but I'll thank them all, God, the world, whatever, my own initiative and resourcefulness. I was able to finally get two groups. So one group was um, two Latinas that were pretty attractive because they want attractive girls too. Um, it's just the superficial nature of the industry. Um, Two Latinas that were very attractive, although they were in jeans. So you know, they were like, "Can we still come in with jeans?" And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." The clubs have gotten pretty lax these days, from what I've seen, and that's true. So they clearly weren't ready in the right attire, but long story short, they still got in. And then a group of blondes with their mom. Um, and they were here for a bachelorette party. So I'm sorry for all the extraneous details. Let me get to the point. The point is, I was able to pull it off. I got them all in, and it really was one of those amazing situations. I got this table at this club. It wasn't like the best spot, like it wasn't right in front of the DJ. It was actually far away. But what do you expect from a comp table? I didn't have to pay thousands of dollars for it. In fact, we actually looked at the drinks menu because they wanted to consider purchasing some champagne, and like the cheapest drinks were like $900. It was crazy expensive at these clubs. That's how they make their money. People want to ball out and show off, I guess. But we got this free table, and it's still good etiquette. I learned from the community. See, that's why you want this program, because there's all sorts of nuances. It's good etiquette to tip your waitress really, really well, even if it's a comp table. So I just did that myself, got it out of the way. But the group of girls, one of them gave a cash tip to another waiter, so that helped as well. You know, I didn't expect them to do that, but that was great. And yeah, yeah, I learned a lot. You know, there's still a bunch of lessons I learned. I didn't even know if they gave you a comp bottle and drinks, but turns out they did. And so when the girls asked about it, I said, I don't know. I'll ask the host. So clearly, I was still very new at a lot of this. You know, coming from a different state that's more of a country state that didn't have any of this. So I was not that experienced, but I was able to pull it off, this bucket list item. You know, I'm all about, you know, bucket list and living a life worth living and fulfilled. And this was something I thought, you know, would be great to do and say I did once in my life before I died. Not as a need to have, but wouldn't that be quite the story if I was able to pull it off? And I was. And yeah, we had orange juice, cranberry juice, limes, ice, and this bottle of tequila. We had a choice of tequila or vodka, and they chose tequila. And yeah, it was just like it all came together, and it was one of those things where it was amazing. Like all that stuff got refilled each time we drained it, and it was something that I think more so than the table and stuff itself, because like I'm not really a big nightclub person who loves to party, but that day I was, you know, enjoying it more than usual because I wasn't in general attendance, stuffed in, standing with all the other dudes and barely any women. That is what you typically see. And no offense to general attendance, I still can have a blast there too on the dance floor and so forth. But I was able to accomplish that more so than any of that. I was just happy about myself that this thing that almost seemed like despair, like that it wasn't possible, I was able to pull it off, and I was able to accomplish it. And through my sheer force of will, my resourcefulness, I was able to do something that I just really thought at the darkest hour, maybe I wouldn't have been able to do it. And so I'm able to take that skill set, which most people don't have, and I've been able to hone it. And now I have a story to prove I can do that. And I can use that in other areas of life. I'm not saying I'm a Jeff Bezos or anything, but I guess I'm proud of myself. And we all had a good time. And everyone was super thankful. Everyone was super happy. And that's a huge thing too. It's a value arbitrage. It's a win-win-win scenario where not just I won, but everyone else won during that event. People think or assume that it has to be win-lose, where you win, the other person loses. And that was not the case either. I can't tell you how many times the mother of the group, who's also blonde, they were all just blondes, she thanked me. And then some of the other girls thanked me too, because they would have been on in general attendance, and they're or somewhere else, and it was this bachelorette party, and they really were kind of hoping to have a good time, but like, I assume their resources were limited too. They couldn't get a table on their own, even though in a way they could, they just didn't realize it. And the mom was like, I can't tell you how happy I am because the girls are having such a great time, and if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have this table. And she was older, so she was like sick of standing, and we were talking about how she'd probably be standing the whole night, whether she was here or somewhere else, and that would have been a mess. And we looked out at the dance floor, and it was crowded and hectic, and people were pushing each other. And yeah, some of the girls were even telling me how thankful they were and how this was the way to do it. And one of them was married, and she said going out with these girls is just so much better than going to Vegas with her husband, because when she went with her husband, they had to pay for everything, and she was so thankful to me that they were able to get this free table and free drinks, and not be bothered by all these guys, and just like go out to the dance floor when they wanted, but then come back. But then if they wanted to talk to dudes, they could. So I don't know. It was a win-win all around, and to some, it may not be a big deal, but to me, it was a monumental feat, a bucket list item that I was able to pull off. Some people, as always, are going to trash. Oh, well, you didn't do it perfectly or whatnot. But who cares about anonymous YouTube comments who are just jealous or couldn't pull it off themselves. But the truth is, I'm just proud of myself to be able to pull something like that off. Not so much for the event experience itself, but to tell that story and tell that I overcame. I was able to do it. I had that resourcefulness, and I didn't give up when most would have given up. And the cherry on top is I got that thing checked off. That was something I would daydream about back, when I lived and worked in a different state on the other coast. And I just felt like that was insurmountable, a big question mark. I had no idea about it. And it'd be part of a life fulfilled to say I was able to do it one day. And yeah, it's one of those things where, rather than brace for negative comments, I'm hoping that I'll focus on the positive feeling inside myself. And I'm really putting this out there to just tell this interesting story and perhaps inspire. So thanks for watching, and see you later.